how this fight just kind of gets just kind of tossed in there, right? Just like, oh, by the way, we'll just throw in Poirier versus Michael Chandler. My lord, honestly, people's main event. This is the fight that I've been going back and forth with. That's given me the most trouble. Is it going to be Poirier and his fantastic boxing? Is it going to be Michael Chandler and his explosiveness and athleticism and his ability to weather the storm and be durable for 5 rounds or 3 rounds? I guess I should really say. Is it going to be a knockout? Is it going to be a decision? All these questions looming in our head, but the real question that I need to ask you right here is, what did you make of Dustin Poirier's pre-fight swagger, I guess you could say? I feel like we normally don't see the man that fired up, but he came out ready to go. This wasn't Dustin versus Conor McGregor, where he's just like, yeah, whatever, I'm about to show this fool, whatever. You have a dude who's not really talking mess, and Michael Chandler wasn't really talking shit. But Dustin Poirier kind of seemed like he really had a chip on his shoulder. Like, he's like, I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna get this dude out of here. Like, what is he mad about? What's going on here?
I don't know if he's mad because I was watching a whole bunch of stuff on it. And they remember I don't remember if it was one fight card ago or two. It was a couple fight cards ago. They had a back and forth in the audience. Man, there was a little bit of talk. They were going back and forth. I think Dustin dismissed Chandler. There's something going on. If you're watching the embedded series, it was covered very well in there. But I've been watching a lot of stuff and I forget what it is. But it could be that. It could be Dustin just trying to get himself hyped up, which I kind of think, to be honest with you, Derek, I think it's a little bit more of that. I think it's a little bit more of Dustin trying to sell a fight, trying to hype himself up, maybe also trying to play that mental warfare of like talking shit to get the Iron Michael Chandler, get him fired up, because that's when Chandler is at his most dangerous. When this dude is on fire, ready to go, durable. He's been hit a couple times. He is very, very dangerous, especially with the foot on the gas pedal. Maybe Dustin's trying to lure him into that. Do you think it's a little bit of head games here, Derek? Are we in store for just an all-out warfare from the jump? What do you think?
I do think in part it is when a guy who is so nice to you and is complimenting your hot sauce and is like, giving you compliments, you got to find an edge. You got to find a chip on your shoulder. You got to find a way to convince yourself that it's okay to beat this guy up. And I just think that that's kind of what Dustin Poirier is looking for. And it kind of struck me a little bit because I was like, this is slightly, it felt to me uncharacteristic, slightly, right? I was just like, this feels like it's out of the man's character to kind of be like this. Normally, in his Conor run-up, it was five rounds for the rest of my life, or whatever the case may be, or 5 minutes or 5 rounds or whatever. It was very coming from like a humble standpoint of like, I'm here to provide for my family, do all that. He got paid by McGregor. Now he's probably just pissed. He's like, I'm just trying to fight, and I'm just trying to whoop this dude's ass. Here's my question to you, man. Dustin Poirier is a very dangerous man. Michael Chandler, if he fights the way that he is accustomed to fighting, at least in the UFC, where he's putting entertainment and he's putting star power in front of logic and game plan, I think this is Dustin Poirier's fight to win. If Michael Chandler comes out there and double legs him across the cage the same way that he did to Tony Ferguson, I think this is a completely different fight. But my main question to you is that the over and under on this one is 1.5 rounds. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the odds makers think that this is just going to go immediate, boom, someone's getting knocked out early, and then we're going to call it a day? Because I could see this going multiple different ways, and that doesn't really always reign supreme right there. So what do you think?
Nah, I don't look at the over and unders, man. 1.5 round is kind of mind blowing, and even looking at the odds right here, plus 165 TKO for Dustin Poirier, feels like it should be switched. Feels like those numbers should be the opposite way. I'm a little flabbergasted, Derek. 1.5 rounds. I don't know which way they're banking on this one going. Like, because would you consider Dustin Poirier an absolute knockout fighter all day long? I mean, yes, he can knock you out. Yes, he has the power, 100%. Don't get me wrong. This dude has pop in his absolute, and he's a mean dog. Like, this dude's a dirty, like, not a dirty fighter, but like dirty in the good way, kind of a scrapper. How we want you to be. Yeah. But I'd say his technique kind of outshines his pop, if that makes sense. Don't get me wrong, the pop's still there. If I'm doing a poor job, don't get me wrong, Dustin Poirier, you got some crack on you, homie. But I feel like Chandler has a little bit more muscle on him, a little bit more power, and it could translate to more wrestling power, and that's really where it is. And it could be that they're trying to think Michael Chandler is going to be wrestling his way to an early stoppage, and just Dustin has nothing to offer. I don't know. I don't really see it that way. I'm thinking they're leaning more towards a knockout. What about you, Derek? Is it knockout, or are they thinking wrestling here?
I definitely think they're thinking knockout. I don't think there's really any way about it. And if you ask, like, it's almost kind of a disrespectful question to ask. Is Dustin Poirier a knockout artist? 15 knockouts, bro. 28 fights, 6 submissions. Like, he's a finisher. He's a finisher of finishers. Michael Chandler, on the other hand, 11 knockouts, 7 submissions. I mean, 23 fights. These men are finishers. So the most logical outcome is someone gets finished, right? When you have two finishers in there. The question is, has the Justin Gaethjes of the world, the Charles Oliveira's of the world, the people who have put Chandler in real deep waters, more Gaethje than Oliveira, have they kind of put Chandler in a position to where now the perspective is he's not durable? I think he's a durable fighter. But I think the perspective can lead to he's going to get, not necessarily chinny where he's going to get knocked out, but Poirier's going to land a couple good cracks on him, and then the game plan is going to go out the window, and then we're going to be fighting ego on ego, right? Because if you're Dustin Poirier, look at the two McGregor wins. I don't know how much stock you put into those, but Conor is a guy who wants to use the ego, who wants to fight your spirit, your soul, and Poirier held up fantastic. I mean, yeah, you lost to Charles, but you dropped him, you were hurting him, you had him in a bad spot. Beat up Dan Hooker, you beat up Max Holloway, you knocked out Gaethje, you knocked out Eddie Alvarez, you knocked out Anthony Pettis. I mean, come on, bro. Like, I just think that Dustin Poirier still, how are we still discounting the man at this point? That's the question. Give me what you got there.
I'm with you, Derek. I'm with you, and I'm trying to think of why that's the case for the 1.5 rounds still, man. I'm over here racking my brain, and I like what you're saying. Not so much of the fact that Michael Chandler is going to be chinny because of the previous fights he's been in, but more so the fact that he enjoys being hit. He's okay to take a couple on the chin. Maybe not enjoys being hit, but he's down for the scrap. You know, he's down to get in a brawl, and when he does, he kind of fights his best. So maybe that's where it is, man. But I still think Dustin Poirier in the hands is a far superior fighter here in multiple ways, whether you want it to be a scrap or whether you want it to be a chess match. Dustin Poirier kind of covers the spread amongst them all.
100%. And I'm just going to equate it to this, man. Tony Ferguson, I felt like, as opposed to another fighter like a Justin Gaethje or another fighter, right? When Michael Chandler went in for the double, Tony Ferguson, I'm not going to say that. He was like, oh, yeah, please take me down. But he's more apt to pull guard and to start working jiu-jitsu, right? Michael Chandler, in that same sense, when he starts getting cracked, is more apt to, all right, let's crack. Let's have a war. What we need is a Dustin Poirier who says, okay, let's reset. Let's get back into the shell. Let's start working our technique, right? And that's why I think Dustin Poirier reigns supreme here. The problem is I feel like the winner of this fight, this is a meaningless fight almost, because both of you guys fought for the title. Both of you guys lost in pretty ridiculous fashion, right? Not in a bad way, but like you got finished, both of you guys. So what now? You fight again? You gonna fight Islam now? I mean, come on. So I don't think there's much meaning to this. I like Dustin Poirier though, man. I like Dustin Poirier via TKO, not because I'm not a fan of Michael Chandler. I'm a big fan of him, but because I think Michael Chandler is gonna fall in love with the war, and Poirier is going to do what he does best. He's gonna crack, and he's gonna get the dub. So I like that plus 165 TKO, Dustin Poirier. But give me the over, brother. Give me the over. What are we talking about? A round and a half here. Give me the over. How do you see it?
Yeah, man, I was hoping you were going to go the under, Derek, because I'm rocking with you the entire way. Dustin Poirier, TKO, round 2.5, man. I'm taking the over. Nice. Iron Michael Chandler, homie's durable. This is going to be a fun, like you said, people's main event right here, folks. Yeah. Tune in. This is going to be a fight.
100%. And I mean, honestly, we're going to have to talk about it on Monday when the post show comes out, but like, we're going to have to really rack our brains. Where do these fighters go? It almost makes it like less exciting because I'm just like, I wish there was more. If this was like winner of this guy fights for the title, it'd be like, oh shit. But it's like, oh no, you can't do that. You can. UFC can do whatever they want, but we'll see. All right, brother.